Congratulations, you've officially made it to the part of the internet where we stop pretending that manifesting and vibe checks are going to pay your rent. If you're here, it's probably because your life currently has the momentum of a parked car and you're looking for a jumpstart. But here's the kicker. Most of you are trying to build an empire while having the attention span of a goldfish on a caffeine bender. You're addicted to the announcement. You post a picture of a book you haven't read, a gym you barely visited, or a business plan that's basically just a collection of colorful sticky notes. You're chasing the applause of people who are just as broke and distracted as you are. Today, we're ending the performance. We're diving into the 5 silent edge protocols, the psychological blueprint for disappearing, so you can actually show up as someone worth knowing. We're going to talk about why being a ghost is the most aggressive career move you can make. So put your ego in the trash, turn off your notifications, and let's see if there's actually a main character under all that social media filler. Protocol 1, the validation narcotic. Most of you are validation junkies, and social media is your primary dealer. You've become addicted to the cheap win. Every time you tell someone about your big plans, your brain releases a hit of dopamine so potent it convinces you that you've already crossed the finish line. In psychology, we call this social reality. It's a devastating glitch in your biological hardware. By talking about your goals, you've essentially tricked your brain into thinking the work is already done. You've satisfied the hunger before you've even sat down at the table. Here's the sarcastic truth you aren't ready for. Nobody cares about your vision board except your mom, and she's just being polite because she shares your DNA. The rest of the world, they're too busy drowning in their own insecurities to celebrate your theoretical success. Every word you spend explaining what you're going to do is a calorie you didn't spend actually doing it. You are leaking the very pressure required to explode. Think of your ambition like a steam engine. If you keep opening the valve to let everyone see the steam, the train never actually moves. You just stand there in a cloud of hot air, looking busy while staying stationary. The 1% understand that energy is a finite, precious resource. They don't broadcast the hustle, they hide the process. Silence isn't just golden, it's high-octane fuel. When you stop seeking external good jobs, and you got this, comments from strangers on the internet, you are forced to look at the only metric that matters, results. If you don't have the results, you don't get the dopamine. It's a brutal system, but it's the only one that builds empires. You've spent your whole life being a potential success story. It's time to stop talking about the plot and start writing the damn book. If you can't keep your mouth shut about your goals for 24 hours, you aren't a founder. You're a narrator. And narrators don't own the stadium, they just work the press box. But hey, keep posting those hustle quotes with the line background. I'm sure the algorithm will eventually trade your likes for a private jet, but if you want to know why your phone is actually a tracking device for your own failure, you need to hear protocol number 2. Protocol 2, the digital exorcism. You think you're using your phone? That's adorable. Your phone is using you like a lab rat in a Skinner box. You are currently a digital serf, paying for your existence with your attention. The silent edge requires a complete digital exorcism. This isn't about a social media break. That's for people who want to feel special for a weekend. This is about information sovereignty. If you can't go 4 hours without checking your pings, you don't own your mind. A 23-year-old coder in Silicon Valley owns it. To disappear properly, you have to become a ghost in the machine. You need to starve the distractions until your brain remembers how to think in straight lines again. Boredom is the gateway to genius, but you're too busy watching day-in-the-life vlogs of people who are actually just actors in Airbnb rentals. The real secret is that focus is the new currency. In an age of infinite distraction, the man who can sit in a room for 4 hours and solve one complex problem is a god. While your competitors are twitching every time their pocket vibrates, you are achieving a state of deep work that they didn't even know existed. You aren't just working, you are outthinking them while they are busy looking at memes. Once you've cleared the digital noise, you're going to realize something terrifying. Your social circle is actually a social anchor. Let's talk about why you need to fire your friends in protocol number 3. Protocol 3, the social sunk cost. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. We've all heard it, yet most of you are still hanging out with the same people you went to high school with. People whose biggest achievement this year was reaching level 100 in a battle pass. This is the social sunk cost fallacy. You stay loyal to people who are actively anchoring you to a version of yourself that needs to die. The silent edge demands a brutal audit. If your inner circle doesn't talk about ideas, assets, or growth, they aren't a circle, they're a cage. Disappearing means cutting the tether. It's not about being mean. It's about recognizing that you can't fly if you're holding on to people who are committed to the ground. You don't need a crew, you need a mission. Stop being afraid of being the ambitious one in the group. If they make fun of your drive, it's because your progress is a mirror to their own stagnation. They don't want you to rise because then they'll have no excuse for staying at the bottom. The Ghost Protocol requires you to be comfortable with being the villain in someone else's story, so you can be the hero in your own. Now, once you've ditched the dead weight, you're finally going to be alone. And that's when the real psychological horror starts. Welcome to protocol number 4, the mirror test. Once you've ditched the dead weight friends and scrubbed the digital filth from your brain, you're going to be left with something terrifying. Absolute silence. For most of you, this is where the silent edge protocol fails. Why? Because without the noise of other people's opinions and the constant ping of notifications, you are forced to look into the psychological mirror. And frankly, a lot of you don't like who's looking back. In the silence, you realize that your busyness was just a mask for your lack of direction. You aren't grinding, you're just vibrating in place. The mirror test is the phase where you confront your own mediocrity without the ability to blame the algorithm or your toxic ex. This is what psychologists call radical objectivity. You have to sit in a room alone and admit that your current bank account, your current physique, and your current skill set are the exact results of the low-standard identity you've been coddling. The 1% use this isolation as a laboratory. They don't run from the discomfort of being alone. They use it to audit their weaknesses. They ask the questions that hurt. Am I actually talented or just loud? Am I working hard or just making noise? If you can't survive a week of your own company without reaching for a distraction, you aren't ready to lead an empire. You're still a flight risk. You have to stay in the silence until the fake you dies of starvation and the architect finally wakes up. This isn't a self-care retreat, it's a mental cage match. Only one version of you gets to leave. But once you've killed off the version of yourself that needs a participation trophy, you have to weaponize that newfound focus. Let's talk about the final, most lethal stage of the protocol, the monolith strategy. Welcome to the endgame. Protocol 5 is where we stop talking about mindset and start talking about market dominance. Most people try to do 10 things at 10% capacity. They want the podcast, the e-commerce store, the gym gains, and the perfect social life. In the world of Rise Theory, we call this multiphasic failure. You're spreading your energy so thin it wouldn't even cut through butter, let alone a competitive market. The monolith strategy demands that you pick one needle-moving objective and treat it like a god. For the next 90 days, you are a ghost. You don't go to birthday parties for people you barely like. You don't catch up over coffee. You don't explore new opportunities. You become a monolith, unmoving, obsessed, and entirely focused on a single outcome. This is where you build your information asymmetry. While your competitors are busy being well-rounded individuals with hobbies and balanced lives, you are becoming a specialist in a world of generalists. You are doing the deep work that is physically painful to the average brain. By the time you re-emerge from the ghost phase, you shouldn't have to explain what you were doing. The results should speak so loudly that they drown out everyone who doubted you. You don't return to the world to rejoin the conversation. You return to end it. You come back with the product, the body, or the bank account that makes everyone else look like they've been standing still for 3 months. Because they have. They were talking. You were building. The closing descent. So, here's the reality check. You've just listened to the blueprint for the silent edge. You have the protocols. You have the psychological advantage. But let's be real. Most of you are going to close this tab and go right back to seeking the very validation I just told. You would kill your dreams. You'll leave a comment saying, "Great video," just to feel like you've accomplished something by watching it. Don't do that. Don't be another consumer of the theory. Become the architect. The Ghost Protocol isn't for everyone. It's only for the people who are tired of being background characters in a world they were meant to lead. If you're actually ready to disappear and do the work, I don't want a long-winded comment. Just type Ghost. That's it. Let that be your final public announcement before you go dark. Subscribe to Rise Theory if you're ready for the ascent. Or don't. The 1% is lonely for a reason. And frankly, we like the legroom. The choice is yours. Go dark. Rise up. We're done here.